Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be talking all about fixed deposits.
FDs.
That's right, FDs. And to help us unpack all this, we've got some really cool information from DBS Bank.
Yeah.
I know, when I first heard we were going to be deep diving at fixed deposits, I was like, really?
Yeah.
But trust me, there's so much more to FDs than I initially thought. I think by the end of this, you'll be like, now I get it.
It's interesting because FDs are kind of seen as that safe and steady option in the investment world.
Right.
And there's definitely a lot to unpack there.
Okay, so let's start with the foundation. What is a fixed deposit?
Okay, so in the most basic terms, it's like a time machine for your money.
Whoa, okay, I like that.
You're giving your money to the bank for a set amount of time, like let's say 1 year, 5 years, you decide. And in return, they're going to give you a fixed interest rate on that money. So it's like a guaranteed return for your patience.
So it's kind of like hitting pause on your money, but in a good way.
Right.
Because it's growing while it's paused. Okay, so then DBS Bank talks about two different types of FDs, cumulative and non-cumulative. What's the difference there, and why should I even care?
Okay, good question. So it really comes down to how you want to receive those interest payments.
Okay.
So with a cumulative FD, the interest that you're earning is actually being added back to the principal amount. So you're getting that kind of snowball effect, where at the end you get a much larger lump sum.
So if I'm saving for a long-term goal, like retirement, then cumulative would make my money grow faster.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, non-cumulative is a little different.
Okay.
With non-cumulative, you get that interest paid out periodically. So it could be monthly, quarterly, annually. And this is great if you want a regular income from your investment.
So that's like if I'm in retirement and I need a little bit of extra cash flow.
Exactly.
It's almost like getting a bonus paycheck from my savings.
That's a great way to put it. Now, before we get too far into all the different types and how they work and all that, there are a few key features that make FDs really attractive to a lot of people. And one of the biggest ones that DBS Bank talks about is that security.
Yeah. Like, no matter what's happening in the stock market, I'm safe and sound.
Right. So your principal amount is protected, and that interest rate is locked in. So that makes it really attractive for people who, don't want to take on too much risk. They want to make sure that their capital is preserved.
Okay, yeah. That peace of mind is priceless these days, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I thought was interesting that they talked about is how flexible FDs can be. Like, you can choose the time frame that works for you, right? You can do it for a week or for 10 years.
And that highlights why FDs can be so versatile.
Right.
So let's say you're saving up for a down payment on a house in a couple years. A shorter-term FD could be perfect for that.
Right.
But if you're planning for retirement decades down the line, then a longer-term FD could be a part of that.
It's not just parking your money. It's like strategically parking your money.
Exactly. Now, one other point that I think gets overlooked a lot is that you're actually earning a significantly higher interest rate compared to just a regular savings account.
Okay, now this is where I get excited. How much are we talking?
Well, it can depend. It depends on the bank, depends on how long you choose. But we're often talking 2 to 3% higher than standard savings accounts.
Okay, 2 to 3%. I can get behind that.
And to kind of put that into perspective, let's say you have, I don't know, like 1 lakh just sitting in a savings account earning, 3% interest.
Right.
Well, an FD, you could get 5%, maybe even 6% on that same amount. So that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah, every little bit counts, right?
Exactly. And that brings us to the power of compounding.
Oh, yeah.
Which DBS Bank briefly mentions.
Right.
So that's where the interest that you earn is added back to the principal, and then that next interest calculation is done on that increased amount.
Whoa.
So your interest is basically earning interest.
It's like growth on growth.
Exactly.
I can see how that would exponentially boost the return over time. Now, DBS Bank mentioned that the interest earned on FDs, he says, is taxable in India.
Right.
So how does that even work?
Well, we are going to deep dive into the taxes a little bit later, but the important thing to know now is that the interest that you earn is going to be added to your total income and taxed according to, whatever tax slab you fall under.
Okay, so it's not like a separate tax rate just for the FD. It's just part of my income.
Exactly.
Okay, good to know. Well, this is a lot more exciting than I thought it would be.
Right.
Yeah. So I think we've set the stage for what FDs are all about, but now I want to know, what are the benefits? Let's get into the details.
Absolutely. Welcome back to our deep dive. Now that we've kind of got the basics, let's dive into the benefits. I think you're going to be surprised by some of these.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me with it.
All right. So first and foremost, DBS Bank really highlights the assured returns, and for a lot of investors, that is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, I like knowing exactly how much my money's going to grow.
Exactly,
Right.
regardless of what's happening out there in the market.
Yeah, like no matter what crazy stuff is going on in the world,
Mm.
my money's still going to grow at the rate that we agreed upon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they also talk about just how easy it is to open an FD.
Oh, yeah.
Like minimal paperwork. A lot of banks even let you do it all online now.
Okay, see, that's my kind of investing. From the couch.
Right.
Nice and simple.
Super convenient. So we've got the assured returns, we've got the convenience factor. What else?
What else?
Well, they talk about that higher rate of interest compared to savings accounts, which we touched on a little bit earlier.
Right, yeah.
And this is where FDs can get really powerful.
Especially when you factor in that compounding. I mean, earning interest on your interest. That's where the magic happens.
Right. Like each little gain triggers further growth.
Yeah.
And then they also highlight the multiple FD accounts thing.
Oh, yeah. So what's the point of having more than one FD account? Is that just like spreading your money around?
It's actually more strategic than that.
Okay.
Think of it like having all these different streams of income,
Okay.
flowing in at different times. So you can actually stagger the maturity dates of your FDs. And that can line up with all your different goals.
So I could have one that's like maturing right in time for my vacation.
Right.
And then I could have another one that matures when my kid goes to college.
Exactly. It lets you personalize it.
That's really smart.
It really is. It's all about managing your finances and making sure you have access to funds when you need them. Now, DBS also mentions, kind of in passing, some of the tax benefits.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
Okay, so this is mainly when we're talking about the tax-saving FDs.
Okay. Tax-saving FDs. So that sounds like it's specifically for, like, helping me on my taxes.
Yeah, so these are designed to help you reduce that tax burden a little bit.
Okay, so what makes a tax-saving FD different from, like, a regular FD?
Okay, well, they do come with a lock-in period, so usually 5 years.
Okay.
Which means you can't withdraw that money before the maturity date. But the good news is that the interest that you're earning on these, it's actually eligible for a tax deduction.
Oh, yeah.
And this falls under Section 80C of the Indian Income Tax Act.
Okay, so back up a little bit. Section 80C, what is that?
It's basically like a bucket of investments and expenses that qualify for this tax deduction.
Okay.
And it has a certain limit, of course, but by investing in a tax-saving FD, you can bring your taxable income down a bit, which means you save a little bit on those taxes.
So it's like a double win.
It is.
You're growing your money and you're saving on taxes.
Exactly. So that's what makes them so appealing to a lot of people.
Okay, so we talked about the standard FDs, tax saving. I want to know more about these different types.
Right. There's a whole bunch.
Yeah, I think DBS Bank gave us a little taste. I wanted to dig in.
All right. Let's unpack it. We talk about the standard, the tax-saving ones. But there's this other type that's perfect if you want a steady stream of income.
Okay.
And that's a regular income FD.
Regular income FD.
Yeah.
I like the
Right.
sound of that already. So how does that one work?
Okay, so it's designed to give you those regular payouts, usually monthly.
Okay.
So imagine getting like a monthly paycheck from your investment.
Ooh, that's cool.
And this can be really, really helpful, if you're retired.
Right, or if you need just a little bit of extra cash flow.
Exactly. It's a great way to set up like a reliable income stream.
Yeah, okay. Without having to touch the principal.
Exactly. And then there's a specific type of FD for senior citizens.
Right, the Senior Citizen FDs. So what's the advantage there? Just a higher interest rate?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Okay.
So banks usually give a little bit of a higher interest rate on senior citizen FDs. It's a way to provide a little bit more of a financial cushion for them.
Yeah, okay. Make that retirement money grow a little faster.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about standard FDs, tax saving, regular income, senior citizen. Are there any more?
Oh, there's more.
Okay, give them to me.
Okay, so how about reinvestment FDs?
Reinvestment. So that sounds like it has something to do with compounding, like more compounding.
Yeah, it's like compounding on steroids.
Right.
So instead of getting those regular interest payouts with this one, that interest is automatically reinvested back into the principal.
Okay.
So that snowball analogy. It's like a snowball of money.
Right, just getting bigger as it goes.
Exactly. This is a really good one if you're in it for the long haul, because that's where you really see that compounding magic at work.
Okay, reinvestment FDs, got it. Give me more.
Okay, how about flexi FDs?
Ooh, flexi. Okay, so that sounds flexible.
Right.
So what does that mean?
Okay, so Flexi FDs, they're linked to your savings account,
Oh,
and that lets you transfer money back and forth.
ooh. So if I, like, had an emergency, I could pull some of that money out without having to break the whole FD.
Exactly. It gives you a little bit of a safety net.
Oh, that's smart. Okay.
But one thing to keep in mind is that interest rate might be a little bit lower than a standard FD.
Okay. So you're trading a little bit of the return for that flexibility.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it's
Yeah.
all about finding that balance.
Right. Yeah. Okay, what about corporate FDs? Are those just, like, offered by a company instead of a bank?
Yeah. You're lending your money to a company instead of a bank.
Hmm.
And often they actually come with higher interest rates.
Higher interest rates.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm listening. What's the catch?
Well, you are taking on a little bit more risk with this one.
Okay.
Because, the company's financial stability, that plays a role.
So I got to do my research on the company, make sure they're not going to go under.
Exactly. You want to make sure your money is safe.
Right, exactly. Okay, so corporate FDs are a little higher risk, but with that comes a higher potential return. Are there any other types of FDs?
Okay, last one I'll share with you. How about a sweep-in FD?
Sweep in. What's that?
Okay, so it's like a hybrid between a savings account and a fixed deposit. So what you do is you set this threshold limit in your savings account, and then any amount that goes above that, it automatically gets swept into a fixed deposit.
So it's like my savings account is working overtime,
Right.
automatically putting any extra money into a fixed deposit for me.
Exactly. And that way you're earning that higher interest on those extra funds.
That's a good idea. Okay, sweep in FDs, that's going on my list of things to look into.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about the different types. We kind of skimmed over the tax part earlier. What else do I need to know about the taxes?
Okay, so one more thing that's important to remember is that even though you might get those tax deductions under Section 80C, that interest that you earn is still going to be added to your total income.
Okay.
So you got to factor that in when you're doing your taxes.
So I need to make sure it all makes sense for my, my overall financial picture.
Right.
Okay, cool. Well, I think I have a much better grasp of these different types of FDs now. I'm feeling pretty good.
That's good. That's good.
So any other words of wisdom?
I think the biggest thing is, defining those goals. What are you saving for?
Right.
Is it something short-term, something long-term?
Yeah.
Because that's going to tell you how long you need that FD for.
Right. Short-term, short FD. Long-term, long FD.
Exactly. And then think about, how much risk are you willing to take on?
Right.
Are you okay with, things going up and down? Or do you want that stability? And if you want that stability, FDs are
Yeah.
really good.
A steady Eddie. I like that.
Right. And then also, how accessible do you need your money to be?
Right.
Because if you need to get to it frequently, then a standard FD with that lock-in period, that might not be the best option.
Right. Right. So then maybe I'd look at those, what were they? The Flexi FDs?
Flexi, yeah. Or the sweep-in.
Or the sweep in. Those sound good.
Yeah. It's all about that balance. Accessibility versus, maximizing your return.
Right. So anything else? Anything I should keep in mind when I'm choosing an FD?
One thing that I think people sometimes forget about is the institution that is actually offering that FD.
Okay.
You want to make sure that they have a solid track record.
Okay, yeah. So it's not just about chasing the highest interest rate.
Right. You got to make sure you trust them.
Right. They got to be reliable.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. I'm feeling much better equipped to make some FD decisions.
That's good.
But we're not done yet.
All
Welcome back to the show. So we've explored like all the nuts and bolts of FDs, the different types, those guaranteed returns. But I want to know, like, where do FDs fit into my overall, like, financial plan?
Okay. Yeah, that's important. We don't want to get too focused on just one thing.
Right.
FDs are just one piece of the puzzle. They're not the only thing you should be investing in.
It's all about diversification. Right?
Right. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
So where do they fit? What role do they play in my diversified portfolio?
I like to think of them as kind of the anchor.
Oh.
They provide that stability and that predictability.
Mm-hmm.
They might not have those super high growth returns like stocks, but
Yeah.
they're there protecting you
Yeah.
from all that market craziness.
So they're like the foundation?
Exactly.
Right.
Like a solid base.
Okay. So then how do FDs perform when, like, the economy isn't doing so great?
Yeah. Well, that's actually one of the biggest advantages of FDs.
Oh, okay.
They don't really care what the market is doing. Remember, that interest rate is fixed when you invest, so you're guaranteed that return no matter what happens out there.
So when the stock market is, like, crashing, my FDs are just like, I'm good.
Exactly. They just keep earning their interest.
Nice and steady. Okay. So diversification, risk management. But, I mean, we all want to see those returns.
Of course, yeah.
So how do FDs compare to other investments out there?
Okay, well, they do give you those guaranteed returns, but
Right.
they're usually considered to be kind of on the lower end
Okay.
compared to other things.
Okay.
So it's not about, getting rich quick. It's about steady growth, preserving your capital.
Right. So, like, what kind of returns could I realistically expect with an FD?
Well, we talked about how they can be a lot higher than savings accounts.
Right.
So we're talking maybe 5% to 7%,
Okay.
maybe even more, depending on the bank and all that. But these rates aren't fixed forever.
Okay.
So it's important to, stay informed, keep an eye on things.
So if those rates go up, I should think about reinvesting my FD when it matures.
Exactly.
So FDs offer stability, guaranteed returns, potential for some decent growth.
Hmm.
But what about, like, the alternatives?
Right. Yeah. What else is out there?
What else should I be thinking about?
That's where it's really important to, think about what you want,
Right.
what are your goals, how much risk are you comfortable with. So let's talk about a few options.
Okay. Yeah.
It's about mutual funds.
Okay, mutual funds. Tell me about those.
So they basically take money from a bunch of different investors and invest it in a mix of things.
Okay.
Stocks, bonds, all kinds of stuff.
So I'm kind of letting the experts handle it.
Yeah, you're getting that professional management, but, there is that market risk
Right.
because it depends on how those underlying assets are performing.
So I got to choose a mutual fund that I'm, comfortable with the risk level.
Right, exactly. How about bonds?
Okay, bonds.
Mm,
So those are like those IOUs, right?
yeah. Issued by governments or companies.
So they give you fixed interest payments, kind of like an FD.
Yeah, similar. But instead of a bank, you're lending to the government or a company.
Got it.
Okay. So, government bonds are usually safer.
Right.
Corporate bonds, a little bit higher potential return.
Okay, so I got to do my research.
Always do your research.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, and then there's stocks.
Ah, the stock market.
Yeah, the wild, wild west.
Right. That's where you
Uh-huh.
can see some big returns.
Right.
But it's the highest risk.
Okay.
So stock prices, they can go up and down like crazy, no guarantees.
Mm.
So you really got to be comfortable with that risk.
Okay, so maybe not for like a beginner investor.
Maybe not right away. It's good to, understand the market, maybe talk to a financial advisor.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I see how all these different investment options like work together.
Yeah. It's all about finding that right mix.
Each one has its own place.
Exactly.
Wow, this has been really helpful.
Good. Glad to hear it.
I feel like I have a much better understanding of fixed deposits and like investing in general.
This is just the beginning, keep learning, keep exploring,
Yeah.
and never be afraid to, talk to a financial advisor.
Right.
They can help you make the best decisions for you.
Cool. Well, I think that about wraps it up for our fixed deposit deep dive.
Yeah, I think we covered it all.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.